Again, I am Sam Wong from the admissions office, and this is one of my favorite topics ever. Um, is how to choose the best fit. If you have any questions, you are welcome to ask me at the end of it. But during that, I would ask for your patience, and hopefully, I can answer most of your questions before the Q&A. And at the end of this webinar, I will also give you a quick introduction of HABU. Okay, let's dive in. Choosing the best fit university. I wonder how many of you have heard of this term before you receive invitation from us or from your counselor. Could you please raise your hand just to get an idea? How many of you have heard of this concept of choosing the best fit or right fit? So there are some hands, some of it, not many, honestly. It's still quite new to many students. For those of you who have heard of it, you might wish to um, share it at the end, but I will try to elaborate that with those who have not in my layman words. So today we will try to cover how to identify the best fit. I will want to give you a little bit tips on how to do your research, and also one page, very simple, very quick tips on how to prepare for your college application. We have a whole separate webinar on how to prepare your application and hopefully in a successful way. So this will not be that today, but I want to still give you some heads up, some tips. So to start with, why do we have to talk about fit but not the best? Like, why don't we talk about how to find the best university in the world, right? The reason is that every one of you is different. Let's face it, this is the fact. Every one of us is different. You have your own individual needs and aspiration, and it's simply not possible to have one university to fit all. This is, it would be very hard, I would say. It would be very challenging and very unlikely. So that is why we look for fit. And secondly, a university life is not just a degree. It's a whole package of experience. And every person has different wishes, will have experiences, even in the same university in different way. And that is why we will hope students would look at what will fit their needs and aspirations instead of like fitting themselves into what some people might call the best. Now, it sounds like a very tricky concept, right? It seems to be very difficult to achieve. But in fact, we have narrowed that down to two questions: what and where? So let's start with the question what. What is referring to what do you want to do with your life? The key here is you and your life, not your mom or dad or auntie and uncle, your brother, your friends. No, it's your life. What do you want? So basically, only you can answer that question because no one knows what you want. And the fact is, you probably don't know as well. Because I mean, uh, sometimes I don't even know what I wanted to have for dinner. And then you just like, oh, I'm not sure. So I will give you some small questions that will help you to find out what is that you want. Number one, what bothers you? That's my favorite. Like, I know it's easy, people ask you, what is your favorite subject? And usually when I talk to students about it, they will go like, football. Sorry, guys. This is a very common answer from the boys. Or I don't have a favorite subject. I don't really want to go to school. It's also very common. Or you might have a favorite subject like English, but it doesn't mean that you have to study English. So I would say it's actually quite difficult to find out what you like. That's why I will ask you to ask the opposite. What make you angry? What bothers you? For example, I love dogs and I hate it when people treat the dogs unwell. Like if they don't treat the dogs right, I get really mad. So that is what I really care. There is no degree for dogs. There's no bachelor of dogs. But I know because I care about dogs, maybe I want to study marketing so that I can promote the idea of protecting dogs. or I want to be an auditor so that I can run the finance of an NGO that helps the dogs. Or another possibilities is that I become an entrepreneur and I run a company that actually helps dogs. So there are many, many options, but not one degree that suits my need. But this is one question that you can start asking. What actually bothers you? If you don't know what you like, then what bothers you? That's a good one. If nothing bothers you, like you're a really kind person, like you're very chill and you don't get bothered very easily, which is not me. I got bothered really easily, but I do know colleagues and friends like that. Then you can look at what you enjoy when you go to school, not the class. I'm not talking about subject. I mean, yes, if you have a subject that you like, that your favorite subject, that's fine. But what do you really enjoy? Are you the person who would go into the classroom in the morning and say, guess what happened last night? Were you that person? Were you that storyteller? Or were you the person who said, guys, I think there's something wrong with the canteen, the food, I want to investigate. Is that you? Or is that you who would talk to the teacher about, I think my friend is not having a good time. They are bothered by something and I don't know how to help them. Are you the one who seek help or wanted to help people who are bothered? All these things, just jot it down and see when you get it together, how would that reflect on what kind of person you want to become? And how would education or a major that will help you? You can't rush this process. We talk about a lot of questions. You have to observe yourself. You have to ask your question, maybe ask yourself the same question every day, every other day, every once a month, and then you might get different answer. Especially if you are in grade 10, well, you will have 200 different answers before you arrive at the final answer. Or maybe you never have a final answers. You will just have a lot of answers on the way, but it has to be something that you do with yourself. So you have to take care of it. And on the way, you can discuss with your classmates, with your friends, with your family, your counselors, but you will have to do the work. Okay. Now, there are 3 tips I have here for you during the process when you ask yourself all these questions. I want you to remember number one, your interest is not necessarily the name of the program that you should go for. Just like my love for dogs, you don't go to Bachelor of Dogs, but you can look at what do you want to do with that subject matters. And no matters is too big. For example, when I was at your age, I was also really mad if people, I'm still actually really mad, if people take the elevator for 1 floor up or take the lift just to get 1 floor up. I mean, it's 2024. We know we should save the world. Like you can totally take the stairs. So climate change could be something that you care, and you don't have to say, "Oh, who am I to save the world?" This is not for you to say. Okay, do not stop yourself from dreaming. Just ask yourself what bothers you, and do not stop yourself by identifying or forcing yourself into a name of the program. I don't know what I want. Oh, electronic engineering. It sounds cool. Maybe this is what I want. That I should just fit myself in. You don't have to do that. If you have time, especially if you're in grade 10, grade 11, you don't have to do that. If you're in grade 12 and you feel the rush, go talk to your counselor, do more research. Maybe electronic engineering is really what you want, but don't force yourself into it because it's the first thing that come up. Okay, that's number one. Secondly, job market demand is not career prospect. I think many of your parents, your counselor may have talked to you about career prospect. And when we use the word prospect, it means that we talk about something that will happen in the future. Many students come to me in the past 2 years, up until this September. They are still talking about how they should study AI because AI is the future and AI create a lot of jobs. No, actually, AI take away all the jobs. I don't know why they're saying that. Not all the jobs, but many of the jobs. But they said because AI is the thing, so they want to be part of AI. So maybe, I'm not saying that is true, but maybe there is a need for AI related engineer or programmer today. But imagine when you graduate from university, that would be what, 5 years down the road, 7 years down the road. Is that still AI? Is it still in demand, you have to think forward. I mean, you can think forward. You are not training yourself into a factory worker. Just what I will graduate, and then I will just get a job right away, directly from my program. I mean, it could happen, but it also could be different, especially for you guys in your generation. So it. It leads to the last tip. Skills is more important than the major now. I'm pretty sure your counselors have shared this with you, or you have done when you do research, you will find out like many articles in many platforms, in many research. They will mention how skills will be more important or are already more important than the major itself when it comes to the job market. So if you are looking at college admission that way, you probably want to look into what kind of skills you want to develop, or what is your strength and what can you further develop and become this super versatile, like fluid, flexible, creative members of the society, instead of one the holder of one degree that you thought was very competitive when you apply for it. I'm not sure how much you're getting from this, but let's get this conversation started with this. Okay? Now, this is the first question. What? And it's a bit abstract. I will leave it to you and yourself to do this question and answer and conversation, and please involve people you trust as well. But let's move on to the second question, which is where? And that is more tangible, easier to answer. And with where, I have put together four headings, four smaller questions that will help you to go through that process. So first of all, location. Should you stay home or should you go abroad? And again, the key here is your preference, not anyone else. I mean, you might have heard from, I don't know, an auntie who said, oh, you must go to the States, otherwise you have no future. Or you might have come across a friend who say, oh, don't go to the States. You will have no future if you go to the States. You have to stay in Asia because Asia is the future. So people have different opinion. Listen, process, discuss with people you trust, but then make your decision. Okay? You have to ask yourself, do you want to stay home or do you want to go abroad? Even though I'm at Hong Kong Baptist and I'm obviously trying to give you information on studying abroad, I do not think that studying abroad is for everybody. And if you are not that person, there's no need to push yourself, in that position. I'm sure there are other options in your country as well, and you can discuss with your counselors and parents. But if you are slightly interested in going abroad, or you are not afraid of that concept, I strongly encourage you to get yourself into doing research on studying abroad, because that's also my philosophy. I have to watch a TV show before I criticize that. So I have to get information about studying abroad before I turn this idea down. So if you are with me, you can start your research. And if you are, say, interested in going abroad, I will hope that, or I would suggest that you start with thinking about the culture. And that is also something very interesting, because I talked to a lot of students who said, I want to go to America, or, basically America. And then I asked them whether they have been to the States. They haven't. Um, why do they want to go to the States? Because the university is great. And then what else? Because they grown up watching the American TV show or movie, just like me, which is, we grown up with that. But does it mean that you want to be there for your bachelor degree? You really have to ask yourself, are you a city girl or a city boy, or do you prefer the country? Like, I'm from Hong Kong. I grew up in Hong Kong. I study in Hong Kong. I am a city girl. I love going to the country for holiday, but I know I cannot survive the country. It would be like the deafening silence would be scary for me. And I would miss going out and get McDonald's at 3 a.m. in the morning. I know that would be it. But then you might want something else. Or you might thought you want city life because you have been watching TV show from Hong Kong maybe, or from the States or whatnot. But are you sure you know what it takes? Is it really what you want? You may want to think about it. And then when it comes to culture, do you really prefer North American culture more than Asian culture? I say that because I'm an Asian looking woman. And I said I grew up in Hong Kong, studied in Hong Kong. I spent most of my life in Hong Kong. But in fact, I do feel more like home when I'm in America because I'm very direct, very blunt, and that's not very Asian. But on the contrary, one of my Finnish friends actually, she feels more like an Asian because she is very subtle and she is also more considerate, I would say, in terms of when she communicate with people, and she also loved noodles. So, well, I can live without noodles, but she can't. So that might be something like, oh, you might be laughing, you might be thinking, how is that possible? But it is possible. So think about what you want. Think about this culture. What do you prefer? And then, of course, the cost. So cost is always a concern, and you definitely have to discuss with your parents. And I hope you can have a transparent discussion with your parent, because I've seen students who talk to their parents um, with a very strong wish to study abroad and then basically force them into supporting them. But at the end, it's just, this is not something that you can force. So you want to do thorough research and share your information with your parents. Okay. Now, when you look at the cost, of course, you have to check how much does it cost. You might also want to check whether they have scholarships and loan. Now, scholarship and loan are very different. And sometimes students just conclude everything using the term financial aid, which is not wrong, but that could be misleading or you can confuse yourself sometimes. So scholarship is a grant that you do not have to return. So this is like a lottery. Well, not really. It's a pot of money. It's a grant that you don't have to return. And a loan is something that you have to return. So you borrow from the university or the government or some third party organization and you have to return. Now, it is very important to differentiate the two because for a scholarship, you might have to do something to get it renewed in most cases. For example, if it is a merit-based scholarship, then you might have to meet a certain GPA to have it renewed every year. Or if it's a need-based scholarship, if your financial situation change, then you might lose the scholarship. And on the other hand, when it comes to loan, something that you have to return, you have to check very carefully when do you have to start returning, like paying back the debt. Um, is there any interest? How much is the interest rate? It could be bigger than you think. Now, I'm sure you have heard of how many of the Americans are under the debt, carrying the debt for their college. So you want to have a very clear picture before you jump into accepting any kind of financial aid. And also, you might want to check whether it is possible to take a part-time job. If finance is a concern, then that might help. But please do not assume that you can take a part-time jobs anywhere, everywhere as a student, because it's not. For example, in Hong Kong, it is possible for international student visa holder to take up part-time jobs during the semester on campus, not off campus, and definitely not full time. But during the summer, you are allowed to take up full time jobs outside of the campus. So some students will actually work in the kitchen for like 3 months and save up because it's a hardworking and high paying job, and they will save up for the next year. But it will be unrealistic to think that you can just arrive as a freshman, like a year one student, and will get a part-time job immediately, and that will support yourself throughout the entire semester. I think it would be quite unrealistic in no matter which country you're talking about. And of course, wherever we talk about part-time job opportunity, even you are allowed to, you might have problem finding a job. So please also take that into account because there is always competition when it comes to job. Okay. Okay, quite a lot of questions about location. The next one, academically fit. What does it mean? Number one, the institution you are looking at should have the programs that you are looking for. And I say it because I have met students who are so lovely and who adores me at work as well. And they will say, "Oh, Sam, I really want to do psychology, but because of you, I would just forget about the psychology and go to your school because I don't have psychology." And I'm like, no, why would you? Like, you don't throw your passion away because, I think I love this university. I would. I think you can be flexible. I'm not saying that you should just like, oh, this is what I want and I will not change it for it. I think you should look at what you really want to get out from the major, just like what we have discussed from the question, what? Do you want to sharpen your certain skills? Can you get that skills from any other major? You want to look into that. But at the same time, I don't hope I wouldn't wish that you throw your passion away only because the university you thought you want to go to does not offer that program. So at least do more research and try to discuss with people like me. You can reach out to the university and say, hey, I really like your university. I'm interested in building this kind of skills or this kind of area of studies. Do you have any recommendation for me? If you couldn't find the right one, or if you couldn't find one that maybe matches with your aspiration immediately, but do not just like give in. Okay. Secondly, it should be a place where you feel appropriately challenged. And the key here is appropriate. What is appropriate? It means that it's not too easy and it's not too difficult. And how would you know? Well, American University, I think they published the acceptance rate. I myself don't quite understand the acceptance rate concept because in Hong Kong, we often publicize the percentile of scores from last year for at least the international curriculum. So you can get an idea. For example, if we ask for 29 to 32 in IB, that's the range for 25th to 75th percentile, and you have a predicted grade of say 30, then you know, oh, it might be around my range. It would be a good one for me. But if your predicted grade is 26, then maybe this school is a bit too hard for you. So you can look at things like that, can talk to your counselors, you can reach out to the reps as well, and also talk to the current students from the university and see if you can get anything out of them. That will also help. And then the last bit is about academic activities. Some of the students are, high achieving students, very aspirational, have a lot of dreams about going to college, doing research, going on student exchange, joining MUN, getting into competition, and they would assume that they can find it anywhere in any university. But the truth is, it's not. And even if a university has all these things, you have to look at the accessibility. They do offer research. Was it only for science, or was it only for business, or was it only for year three students? Do they have to be a certain concentration? Do they have to know certain language? You have to check. They have student exchange. What does it mean? How bad is the competition? How long is their student exchange partner list? So you want to look at that. You want to make sure that not only inside of the classroom, but you are also satisfied outside of the classroom. So these are the two questions. And then we have two more about where. Number one, style of the university. Size is a very common question. Now, many students would think, I want to go to a bigger college. I want to go to a bigger university because they are bigger, richer, more resources, more opportunities, which is not wrong. But then they also have more students. What about the competition? So when you look at the university and thinking, oh, big is better, you better check. Okay. Also, for a smaller university, you might be able to build your own community. You might feel more supported. So you want to look at the size and ask yourself, what do I prefer? What will better fit my need? And then also, would you like to go to a liberal arts university, which focus on liberal arts? Or would you like to go to a comprehensive university that has program all the way up to PhD and research? Would you like to go to somewhere that is focusing on creative arts, maybe, or performing arts? That's very different. You might be able to find creative arts program in a comprehensive university, just like what we offer here at JPU. But you can also be very focused and concentrate on what you really want, and then go to a school for music, for acting, for performing arts. So you want to check which style suits you best. And last bit, the experience. Now, again, this is very common for students to assume that, oh, if I go on exchange or I go on studying abroad, I will stay in the dormitory. Is it so? You better check because there are so many countries, cities struggling with offering dormitory to students. I'm sure if you have started your research, you will know. And then some student will imagine that, of course, I will go to MUN. Of course, I will go to certain clubs when I join the university. Do they have what you want? Is that, exactly what you are looking for? So you probably want to check that too. And after graduation, you might think that, of course, I will stay in that city and look for jobs because I want to start my career there. Is it possible? You have to check the immigration policy. So, for example, in Hong Kong, students are allowed to take up like a visa extension for up to 2 years without any commitment. So they can stay in Hong Kong and look for jobs, go on holiday and return, and there is no limitation. Is it the same for other countries? You will have to check. And then, is it possible for you to apply for permanent residency? In Hong Kong, you can, but can you do that in Canada, US, or wherever you're going to? I don't know. You have to do the research, but do not make assumption. Okay. So try to answer all these questions, and I'm sure that will help you to get to closer, at least closer to what you really want. Now, I want to move on to giving you some tips or giving you like a sneak peek on how would you start your college search. So usually there are two major approach. One is destination oriented and one is program oriented. So for destination oriented, of course, you have to start with tidying up a list of countries or cities that you're interested in. I would say 2 to 3 countries, and then in each country you have maybe 2 to 3 schools. That might be a way to be like just to start your research. And then if you are taking the program-oriented approach, it means that you have a major that you really want to study, and then you will just look for the best university that offer that one, the best university or that one that suits you best. For example, many of our students come to our school because they look for a triple accredited business school, and we are the only one in Hong Kong that is triple accredited with AACSB, EQUIS, and AMBA. Or we have students who are looking for an acting program in Asia that is taught in English, and that's how they found us. So it depends on which is more clear to you, not important, but more clear to you. You might have a better idea where you want to go or what you want to study. And that could help you to determine which approach you want to take. If you have no idea, that might be the way to be. Now, a little tips, 4 little tips on how you can do your research. Okay. Number one, study the university's website. The key here is study, not browsing, not scrolling down quickly with this, doing this. No, study it thoroughly because it's 2024. We put all of our information, updated information online. And in many cases, you will find extremely important information on the website if you read carefully. For example, for us, we have an early round application. And in fact, we will look at all the early round applications in one go all together after the after the early round deadline. And we will shortlist those or we will process those competitive ones first. And then we'll start giving out offer as early as in late December. So if you are interested in scholarship, you're always encouraged to apply in the early round. And if you study the website carefully, you would have found this useful information and you would have taken advantage of that instead of applying in May and crying for not getting a scholarship, even though you are a very competitive candidate. So when you read the website, be extremely thorough. Do not just browse, okay? Details. That the devils is in the details, okay? So do that. And then make good use of social media. Now, the key here is good. Make good use. I have met students who found HABU using the hashtag best university in Asia on Instagram. I'm happy with the result, but I don't think that is the right way to do it. So, what do I mean by making good use of social media? I refer to you should go to the university's official social media account. Always first go to the official accounts and see what they offer. These days, I would imagine everyone will be just like us, or if they are not, then you may want to think about it, like what happened. Usually, we have students sharing. Usually, we have a recording of some webinar or admission talk, they should have some video about their campus, or at least on Instagram, you will find invitation to events like online talk or information day, open day. So you want to take advantage of that first. And after you exhaust all the official account, then the next one, if you ask me, I would say go try to find a KOL, like a YouTuber from that university, because again it's 2024. I mean, almost every university has someone who are extremely active on social media. You might, get a very different point of view, or get some, firsthand reporting from someone who is actually studying that. So I suggest you to do that. So that's the second one. Third, attend an admission talk. Now, I show you just now, I mentioned that you can go on the YouTube channel and then you probably find recording of admission talk, which is very common. But I strongly recommend that you go to an admission talk, like attend an admission talk. Because if you attend an admission talk first, you have given your email address to the university so they can remind you of all those deadlines for scholarship, for admission. They will invite you for further event. And if I receive an application, I will always check, oh, has this student joined our event? Like, have they shown interest? What kind of interest? How much interest they have shown? So that's one thing. Secondly, if you attend an admission talk, you can ask questions. And that is the key, because reps like us, we know so much about the admissions process, but we cannot tell you everything on the website. And the best way to get more information is to ask questions. And you can also leave a good impression if you ask the right question. I mean, there's no wrong question if you ask me. So you might want to do that. Attend an admission talk. And the last one is to talk to current students. I strongly recommend that you talk to current students from that university, or at least that city or country, just to get an idea of what it's like. What's better than, listen to the one who is doing that, right? Let them walk you through the process. Even if you are not interested in that city, you know what? I think you should try to contact them, because they have made the decision to study abroad. So you might want to, also ask them, how did you come to that decision? What was the challenge? How did you overcome that? That might help as well. So I think it's very common that university offer this. If you cannot find it online, just email the rep and say, can I be connected with, student from my country, or student who are studying in the major that I'm interested in. And maybe from your interaction, you can get more information that will help you to make the decision. And there comes the last bit, which is my one-page tips on how you can prepare for college application. And this is only one page, because you might be from very different grades and different backgrounds, studying different curriculum. But I would say in general, these are some very useful tips if you are starting to think about applying to college or doing research on college admission. First of all, academic counts. I mean, you don't have to be straight A's. Not everybody has to be straight A's, but at the end of the day, in most cases, you probably have to have some good grades. And what is good grades? It depends on what university you are looking for. But honestly, when I say out loud, I also want to correct myself, not to correct myself, but there is there are other options, because there are also many talent oriented or talent based scholarship for admission and scholarship. So that is possible as well. Maybe it's good grades or talent. You know what? I will change that next time. So this is number one. Look at your academics, or look at your strength. Like if you have certain talent, you might want to, start preparing. For example, if you are really good at dancing and you are taking part in competition, and that is the role you want to take, that journey you want to take, then maybe you want to start planning what kind of competition you want to join. Like joining a regional competition might be better, a national level might be even better, and an international one not to mention. And if you win, that might also give you an edge. So you might want to think ahead. And this is what I mean by, actually, I just want you to plan ahead in terms of your academic or non-academic performance. Secondly, standardized tests. Now, I think many of the university are going test optional these days. But if you have a very clear idea what university you are looking at, or if you are from a, a country in which your curriculum are usually not accepted in most part of the world, and you know that you have to take SAT or AP or ACT, or if you don't know, you probably need to start checking early. And then you will have to prepare early on, because it will not be possible if you say apply in October, hoping to come to us, for example, in September, but you have no curriculum, no qualifications that matches our requirements, and you have to take SAT. You can't, I mean, you can, but it might not result in positively if you just suddenly sign up for an SAT test in December and then just jump into the test. It will be expensive, it could be waste of money, and you might not get the result that you want. So you want to prepare ahead if that is what it takes for you to apply to the university that you are looking for. And if you are not sure, you should discuss or consult with your counselors to see if you should plan ahead. And something similar with English tests. So sometimes students will come to us and say, well, I study English in my school, so can I be exempt from the English requirements? And my answer is no. And I think this is quite common for universities, at least in Hong Kong, because even mother tongue, even those who use English with mother tongue, they will be asked to provide English proficiency proof. So English test or Cambridge English or IGCSE English, or actually for us, SAT English, AP English, it will work as well. But you have to check what it takes to fulfill the English requirements. Do not assume that you don't need anything because you study English in school. Okay? So don't make assumption. And lastly, um, there are always questions about what kind of activities I should take to strengthen my portfolio, to make myself look great in terms of non-academic performance or extracurricular activities. Number one, if you ask me, number one, do not do anything just for the resume. It has to be something that you like, that you're passionate about. Don't just do it for, the CV or the college applications. I think we are all moving away from that, together with the university as well, because it's just not the right way to be. Well, maybe for some competitive one, you still feel like you are under the pressure to do that. I don't want to rule out that possibilities, but at least personally, I don't think that's the right way to be. So do something that you're passionate about. And also, my suggestion is to elaborate on your experience. So when you want to share what you have done non-academically, you want to share your non-academic performance, you don't want to just throw in a certificate or award, or does it? How do I explain this? One example, one year we have received an application, and in the supporting documents, I found photos of many medals from the applicants. So obviously they are very strong in sports, different kind of sports, but there is no caption whatsoever. There was no supporting documents, no supporting information. There were just many photos of medal. And it did not help us in understanding how great they were, and and why is that relevant to their application. So if you ask me, I would say try to put that, my tips is that put that in the form of CV, resume, these are what you have done, and then give it a little introduction or information. For example, competition, business competition, a regional business competition in this country, this city, uh, team leader for this, second runner up, something like that. Okay, so that could be a possibility. Or even better, if you can elaborate your experience. So here I write participation is the lowest level of performance, non-academic performance, and then skill, and then achievement. So if you ask me, participation is, yeah, well, you've done that. But what is more important is what you have learned. And then if you achieve something, that's nice. But if you actually, achievement would be good to have. I think the skills and how it help you grow, the experience help you grow. And if you can elaborate that, and if that is relevant to the program that you're applying for, that would be beautiful. Let me give you an example. You take part into a robotic competition, you and three other of your friends. You argue in the process. You were the team leader, you argue in the process, and then you learn how to be a better leader. At the end, you did not win, but then you learn so much about listen to other teamwork, creative problem solving, can do spirit. If you can elaborate that, and then you are applying for computer science, say, and then with a wish to do research, that might help. But if you just submit a certificate saying robotic competition champion, I would say that cert is less important than what I have elaborate. If you really look into that. So you have to make the information you share meaningful. I think that's what I try to say. Okay, this is the end of the first part of the webinar, which is choosing the best fit. Now I can take some question only about the topic, and I will talk about I will give a short admission talk about HKBU later on. Okay, but let's first look at questions for um, choosing the best fit. So does culture difference really matter between Asian countries? Whether it matters is your question for yourself. Um, I would say, well, I travel around Asia. I do feel more familiar if I travel around Asia, but we are also very different. We must admit that. And I still find places very exotic, but that's why I find it fun, and that's why I still think that students should look at, you know, studying in Asia, even though they're from Asia, because you thought that you know Hong Kong. Seriously, no. I mean, we're so different from where you are, um, unless you're from Hong Kong, even from Taiwan, even from across the border, from Zhuhai, from China, you will find it very different in many different ways because we just simply have very different cultural background. So if you ask me if it's difficult for you to settle down, I think it would definitely be easier to settle in at first. But if you ask me, is it too simpler? I wouldn't think so. Like, yeah, it's still very different. And then we have a question, best approach to share. Um, right. So how do we talk about the best fit when we have also concern over rankings and prestige? Well, that is a question for many counselors and maybe sometimes for students when you have to convince your parents. I am very pragmatic. I think we can, if you know, for whoever is interested in ranking, I would say why not go to the list of who gets into my postgraduate study later on. It's definitely, I mean, I can't say it out loud. It might be this year, but I don't think so. I've been looking at that research forever. It's usually students from different university going to, postgraduate study in prestigious university. And then if you look at like the 500, Fortune 500, and then their CEO, they are not all from Ivy League. If they are all from the Ivy League, then the world will be different, maybe not in a good way. But I think we have to be pragmatic and realistic about this. I mean, is it? Is it really? And also, maybe it is not a philosophy that's shared by all, but I believe that students or whoever, like people, do better if they feel loved and supported. They thrive. So that is why it's important to find the best fit. If you find a place where you feel that you are part of it, that you feel supported and taken care of, then you can thrive. Many of my students would come and told me how much they did not think they would do. Like, well, they, of course, many of them are high achiever academically, but they also express how they were motivated after they joined HABU because it's such a community. And when you see how your friends are getting into different things like competition or intern and whatnot, then you feel like, maybe I can do that too. It's actually fun. And I don't know, like, isn't that important? Isn't that also important, especially down the road when when study could be challenging, when study abroad could be lonely. Isn't that something you should look at? So I know my colleague, I mean, this is tough, but let's continue to do that work with parents and students. Okay, is the ratio of international student to local important? Um, it depends on you as well. For example, I remember my student from Ethiopia went to Norway for student exchange because she wanted to be, well, is it her or was it someone else? Well, I've been in the field forever. I mix up students, but there was definitely one student who went to Norway because they want to be the only Asian in that university, and they chose a small university as well, and they got it. Like the whole village know him, and at the end they were like ambassador of Asia, China, Hong Kong, even Taiwan. They were from the student was from Hong Kong, but it doesn't matter because they were the only Asian. So it really depends on what you're looking for, I think. But of course, in general, if you know the university had a higher ratio of international students, no, you know what? It doesn't mean that they know how to host international students. It is irrelevant with their experience. That's why I think you should talk to the current students to get the real picture. Does reaching out to admission office about my question make any difference or impact? I think it makes an impact because you will get the right answer. So this is the real impact here, and you should not doubt. Of course, you should not be asking questions which could be answered by browsing through the website, and that is always my question mark. Like if you can just go to the website instead of waiting for me to reply in 2 days and give showing you the same place on the website. So that's why I said study the website. That's important. What's the most unique thing about Hong Kong Baptist University? This is not part of this. We will talk about it in the admission talk, so we'll do that later. Okay, any other question? Can we have this recording? Everyone who registered this for this session will get a link to the recording afterwards. Okay, how can international attend this talk? You are attending one talk right now, girl. This is 2024. You can do it online. And most of us offer online talk. Don't worry about it. And then, is there any such upcoming events this application is near? Okay, I hear a lot of stress. If you're asking about our university, we have not started our application, so relax. And yes, we have more events coming up, and I'm sure other universities have that too. Would it be beneficial if I tell story of my passion for AI in my personal statement? If I apply for CS, yes. And I'm glad that you bring up a personal statement. So some universities, some countries require personal statement as a compulsory component, but in Hong Kong, not all of us require that. For example, we do not require that. It's not compulsory. And actually, my advice is if you have a story to tell, go ahead. If you don't, please do not make up stuff. Or please do not ask ChatGPT to write something for you because we can all tell. We can tell immediately and it wouldn't help. But if you have a passion, if you have a story that you want to share, it will help. And very often at the interview, professors will ask questions that draw from the personal statement. So do not lie in the personal statement. Not many people lie, but do not exaggerate. It's not necessary. Just focus on what you mean. I think sincerity is very important in the process. And at the end of the day, you want to be honest, you want to be truthful because, again, you want to be part of this community and then you will thrive. So, yeah, that's my suggestion. Okay, we have this chat. What's the next admission talk? Well, if you have listened to me all this time, when is the next admission talk? You should try to find out by going to our social media. And actually, you'll be invited because you signed up for this one. So you'll be in the mailing list and we will invite you later on. So you already get a tip. How to decide if a destination or program-oriented approach is best for me? Well, you have to first answer the question yourself. If you have answer for where, you have a clear, more, okay. If you have a clearer answer to the question where, then I think you should take the destination approach, the destination oriented approach. But if you have a clearer answer for what, like the program or the major or area of study that you're interested in, then you might try the program oriented approach. Usually, I would say students it's easier for students to arrive to a clearer answer in terms of where. But Yeah, it depends on the individual. I will not make assumption as well. Is it possible to change major once you get into the university? It depends. So different universities have different process. So you should also check. Some does, some don't. For us, we have broad-based admission for many programs, so students actually do not have to declare a concentration until the end of the first year. So it could be very different. It could be handled very differently. So do your research. Is it okay to ask the admission office a few questions by emailing them? Will it be annoying if you ask like 5? No. Again, if you have done your research and there are things that you want to clarify, it's completely fine. I mean, we are here to do that. And I would rather that you ask me instead of you know, just casually assuming. Actually, I think this is really what I should put at the end. Do not make assumption. That is it. But then do your homework. Like, don't be a lazy applicant. And just like, oh, when is your application deadline? Something that you can easily find on website. You can only make yourself look dumb. Like, this is just not the right way to do. So study the website. But if it is not clear to you, let us know. I remember some of the most impressive email is when a student would tell me what they have read from the website and what is the wordings that confuse them. We sometimes change the website, the wordings because of that too. So you are not only helping yourself, you're helping other students, but do show that you have put the effort to do the research. Does HAPU offer AI? Okay, I'm not answering that. What is application process? No, I'm not answering anything like that because this in this part we would discuss choosing the best fit generic in a generic sense. Okay. How can we talk about our social media growth? Because I'm not sure what university you're applying to. I don't know if they have a specific requirements for personal statement and whatnot. So I will leave it to your research and do consult your counselors. What is the best field in computer science to become an ethical hacker or software engineering or AI engineer? And obviously, again, this is a question that you should answer. Is it true that earlier applied to make a chance to get scholarship? It depends on individual university. For us, yes, but not for everyone. So you have to definitely do your research. Okay, I think this is pretty much it because I'm already getting compliments. So I think this is probably the end of the first part. Thank you so very much.